Hello and welcome back to the Dicebreaker podcast. It's episode 57. Lolies.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't going to be here this week, so I already said last week what it was.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
Heinz
of course
Varieties.
Heinz Varieties, right?
Yeah, because
like
of
the beans.
the 57.
Did we say that?
Yeah, that stuck in my mind.
I said it especially for you, Meehan, because you like beans. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Oh, maybe I kind of forced it out of my mind to try and protect myself from all those mean things you said.
Yeah, that you're stinky and stuff.
Yeah, that I smell because
that's good. Yeah, let's make sure we bring that back up in
Yeah.
the opening of this podcast.
Yeah, we love that because I love beans so much.
Yeah.
They're the magical fruit.
I'm Matt Jarvis. True.
They're full of protein, okay?
Yeah,
They're very good for you.
I mean, I love beans, so I'm not
Beans
judging.
are incredible. Yeah. Cold, warm, whatever you got. I'm Matt Jarvis. I'm the editor-in-chief of Dicebreaker. I'm joined this week by two of the team and a special guest. Let's start with a guest. I'm delighted to be joined by Professor Meg. Hey, Meg, how are you doing?
Hello, I am doing well. I'm Professor Meg. I am a board game content creator, mostly on Instagram, a tiny bit on YouTube. Kind of just a lot of colorful chaos across the internet.
Excellent.
Meg and I actually quite often, well, not so much lately, but I quite often have the same hair color around the same time, or like around the same time-ish, which is quite fun. Because I'm like, oh my god, I messaged Meg and I'm like, oh my god, Meg, I also have blue hair at the moment. And it's quite fun.
I feel like we're like perfect
Meg
opposites
changes
right
her
now.
hair. Yeah, Meg changes her hair more often than I do.
Yeah.
So if anyone thinks that I change my hair a lot, don't look at
that
Meg's
what you-
Instagram.
Is that why you dyed your hair pink, Lolies? Because you're like, oh, I can't have the same hair colour as Meg. Quick.
No. I actually would like to go back to blue quite soon, but I think it'll be a few months before I do.
I think honestly that's what happens when you have like the warmer tones and the cooler tones. I go from blue to pink or like orange, and it's like blue, green, orange, pink, that when you have one, you want the other one. It's bad.
Yeah, it's true.
I will say that we've color coordinated, all four of us, to some degree. There's elements of like blue and purple and pink going on. It's very pleasing and in harmony.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, Meg. Of course, we're also joined by Alex Lolies. How you doing, Alex?
Yo, excuse the mess for anyone who's watching this on YouTube. I'm in the middle of moving house still. I've just come in today to do the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to miss Meg on the podcast. Yeah, so don't judge me. This is not how I live.
If this week wasn't busy enough for you, you've come back into an extremely busy day.
Are you like that Simpsons meme where it's like, is it Lenny who's like, please don't tell people how I live?
Pretty much. But this is not actually how I live, so don't judge me.
And rounding out the cast this week, Alex Meehan. How you doing?
Okay. I'm...
That weird scratching sound before you answered was kind of weird.
Weird scratching sound? What's that?
I don't know. I heard a weird scratching sound. Maybe it was just me.
No. Well, hopefully there are not audio errors going on, everyone. No, I'm just enjoying. I'm having a lovely tea from my Frozen themed mug that my parents got me because for some reason they are under the impression that I'm obsessed with the film Frozen. I'm really not. I think it's fine. But when it came out, my parents were like, oh, you love this stuff. So they got me a mug, they got me a pencil case with pencils.
Oh my
They
goodness.
got me a
wow.
lunchbox. And I was like...
Oh, that's so cute.
So I don't know whether they just want me to be into Frozen. Like,
Yeah, maybe
like
this is the...
like a normal girl instead of being into all that weird stuff that I like.
the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you buy enough merch and just slowly stock it in your home, you become a fan by default.
Yeah, and then whenever it's on television, which can be quite often, especially around Christmas, they will just message me to say, Alex, Frozen is on the television, we're watching it. And I'm like, I just think you're obsessed and you're just trying to get me into it. Like, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Frozen's a great film. Oh yeah,
It's fine.
I really like Frozen.
Good.
It's
fun.
It's got some problems sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole section with the trolls can basically just be deleted, as far as I'm concerned, because it's rubbish.
Yeah.
There you go. Hot takes.
Hot takes. But Hans of the Seven Isles. He's a wrong 'un.
Spoilers.
Sorry. Who hasn't seen Frozen at this point? Sorry,
Chil-
spoilers for
very
Frozen.
small children. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure very small children are listening to this.
They
podcast.
really shouldn't listen to this.
Hey, we don't swear. We're a family-friendly podcast.
We are.
They're massively into Uwe Rosenberg. Anyway, we're here to chat about.
He wants to
board
see
games.
the baby, so it makes sense.
Oh, me and you froze me. I thought we'd lost you for a second. It's fine.
No, we're fine.
You'd frozen.
Frozen! Oh my god,
King.
Matt
There we
Jarvis.
go. Let's segue
Devil.
out of this segment into what we've been playing this week, because of course we're here to chat about board games and tabletop RPGs and all sorts of stuff that goes on a table, including a frozen mug if you're Alex Meehan. Let's start this week. Alex Lolies, let's start with you. What have you been playing recently?
Well, as I've previously mentioned, I've been moving, so I haven't been playing a huge amount. But having said that, I've been playing some poker.
Oh.
Yeah, with the person I'm living with is obsessed with poker, so they decided to teach me. Well, I've played poker before, but I always forget, and then also like it's poker, so I'm never really that like bothered about playing it. But they've taught me to the point where I keep beating them now. And we started playing for money, like literally pence, like 5p or whatever at a time. Just so there's actual stakes, because every time they like made a bet, I was like, yeah, I'm calling it, because there was nothing to lose. So now that there's something to lose, there's like actual like stakes involved, and I keep beating them. So I've won £3.40.
Amazing.
Wow!
over five or six games. And they're getting very upset because this is like their favorite game, and they think they're really good at it. And I'm like,
You could get like a whole packet of biscuits with that.
yeah.
Like, think about it. It's impressive.
So yeah, I've mostly just been playing that because it's like, a deck of cards, quite easy to whip out on a small surface somewhere. I have actually just bought a new table that we set up yesterday, and it's one of those like round but it extends, and I'm very excited about it because I'm finally going to be able to play like big games. Like I can finally whip out my Gloomhaven, my Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion and stuff. Although I think that's quite small anyway, isn't it? But anyway, I can whip out bigger games is what I'm trying to say, which I'm very excited about. And then I've mostly been playing Gloomhaven Digital also because I am very obsessed with it, and it's very easy to play because I don't have to set up anything. And
Yes.
I've been doing some like quests recently. They've been very hard, like stupidly hard. Like, how is this even possible to be hard?
Is there a campaign mode in there now, or is it still just kind of like standalone?
Yeah, not yet. I think this year, maybe, hopefully.
They did announce it at some point. It's a news piece you can read on Dicebreaker.
Yeah.
I actually, funnily enough, me and you said that because I was like, I'm gonna Google to see when it comes out, and I was reading this article and I was like, oh, it says like it's coming out this they're doing the non-beta version this year, and then I was like, oh, that's so cool, and then I checked the like URL, and I was like, oh, I'm reading this on Dicebreaker.
It's always great.
Yeah.
It's great to read the site you work for.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I remember us discussing it last year on the podcast, but because it was like November last year that we discussed it, I think. But yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to that because I think at the moment, like, I guess it's very similar, and they've done a really good job of like making it like the board game, but it's I'm not sure how like well balanced it is and things like that, and I'm kind of looking forward to the full version to see what it's actually going to be, and hoping that like the campaign mode is going to be lots of fun to play through. Yeah.
Nice.
You talking about poker reminded me. Matt Jarvis.
Hello.
Do you know the lady who presents Only Connect?
Yeah. Victoria Cohen Mitchell, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Did you know she's like an ex-poker champion?
Yeah.
Like, it's wild. She's like talked about how she would travel to like, Las Vegas, across the world, and play poker on like a really high professional level. And then she just stopped. She just decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go and present television programs, like game shows. But are you gonna get like that, Lolies? Are you gonna become like a massive champion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're delighted to announce the next host of Only Connect is Lolies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep training. I'm gonna keep taking money off my housemate, and and then I'm gonna hit the casinos in the area, and then hit the
area.
yeah, and just keep working my way up the ladder like that. So yeah, I'll be handing in my notice before long. I'm sure.
Please not. Two things. First of all, Meehan, I like that you singled me out as the person that was most likely to know the host of Only Connect.
Yeah.
You are a library of knowledge.
I mean, it is on before University Challenge, or after University Challenge, one
Yeah.
of the two.
Meg, do you have any idea what we're talking about?
Honestly, that got me daydreaming because I don't know this person, that I was like, dang, I should do that and like dress up in different costumes and go into different casinos and just like clean house, walk in and be
Yes!
like,
Oh, that'd be pretty
can
good,
I just play with you guys? And then take the money.
Yeah, they don't
fake,
suspect.
tearing off the fake mustache
Me and
as
Alex
you walk
just
away with.
wait, because once we're together, we're gonna
Let's
get
do
all
it.
the money.
Can we
gonna
get
be
like
like-
slow-mos of us like walking into a casino, like we're
Like
gonna,
slowly taking the sunglasses off and
Yeah, like the hair just like
flicking my
flowing.
cigarette.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be like Ocean's 11?
Yeah.
Ocean's 2.
Yeah, it just takes two of us.
Well, yeah, there's already an Ocean's 8 with Rihanna and the like. You can be in the sequel to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works out. I actually have a story related. I played poker at school, and we used to play every lunchtime, and we also played for just like spare change. And I had never really played poker before, and ended up winning about 15 quid in total over like several months.
As a
And then
kid,
it was-
that is a substantial
I mean,
amount of
like
money.
Yeah.
teen, like I don't know,
Okay.
14, 15, that kind of age. But it ended up getting shut down by the school because we were obviously gambling for money, and the
Yeah.
school is not a licensed gambling establishment. So there was the chance that the school could get in kind of major trouble, not least because there was a load of kids who were under the gambling age, but also because it wasn't licensed to have a poker ring taking place.
Yeah,
Of
we're
course.
planning to get like a proper poker thing with chips and everything. We're planning to do
Nice.
that. I'm very
Poker
excited
chips
about
are so pleasing. They're just like one of the
Yeah.
most pleasing objects. Like
I watched a
clacky and
video-
weighty and
it. Yeah, I watched a video of like a poker match. What do you call them? A fight?
Yeah, poker
I don't a match.
they threw the cards down and just baited each other.
But it was
Full
great
house.
because one of them was just like, he was just sat like this, like with his arms just like bracing the table the whole time, just staring intently. And the other guy, he had two aces in his hand, and there was an ace on the table, so he had the match. And he just the whole time he was like clicking the poker chips, and I was like, I would be doing that as well, like stacking
That's
and
cool.
clicking, and I was like, yeah, I would be doing that. It's such a pleasing sound, isn't it?
Matt,
Yeah.
I didn't know you had such a shady past.
Yeah, well,
It's all coming up now.
But one thing I always wanted to learn was, it's a very specific thing, but in Pirates of the Caribbean, when Johnny Depp has the medallion and he runs it along the backs of his knuckles.
I know exactly
I
the
spent
moment you
several
mean.
weeks trying to learn that. It's
As
really
a child,
difficult.
that moment trying to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'd want to, like, if I got into the poker ring, that's what I'd want to be able to do. Is just like run that around.
The problem is you'd focus so much on getting good at that you'd be really
yeah.
bad at poker. So then you would just lose so much money.
Yeah, poker's mostly luck, isn't it? It's just kind of, you get dealt what you dealt, and then you're just trying to bluff. I'm a terrible bluffer because I'm an open book and very like outwardly emotional and show every kind of emotion on my face. So I would be bad at that thing of poker. So I feel like I need the distraction. Like I need something happening to the side that distracts from people analysing me, because it would be over very quickly.
Have any of you guys played any competitive card games? Because this makes me think when you're playing, like, there's like a nervous tick that you do where like I've done this all the time where like you shuffle your cards a certain way. I wish I had cards in front of me. I don't. But it's something that I do that I learned from like TCG playing. And then when I started playing games with my husband, like we would be playing Gloomhaven and I would just start shuffling my cards like that really fast and like snapping them at him. And I didn't realize I was doing it. And he was like, I need you to stop because I need to think. But like I didn't realize it, but it's probably like not great for the other players. But the things you can do with cards when you're nervous, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't actually know if I have a tell. I should, like, because essentially everything, like, I'll just immediately start sweating and being very nervous. So it's not like a small
Rivulets of
tick.
sweat just
But yeah.
pouring down your forehead.
But I'm not sure if I've ever shuffled in a... I'd be interested. I wonder if it's something I do and I just don't realise it, like you say. Because until someone points it out, you probably don't even think about doing it.
Yeah. I don't have a tell, but I probably definitely have a tell. I still know what it is.
I'm just notoriously bad at like shuffling cards. I don't know how to do it. I just get a big chunk of cards from the deck and just shove them like in between the other cards and just keep doing that. And then my mother and I, we would play some very classic card games like Rummy and that sort of thing. And she would just watch me do it and just be shaking her head and tussling. And I'm like, I'm trying my best, mother.
My mum is really good. My mum is really good at shuffling cards. Like, I swear that she was like, I don't know, professional card shuffler or something. I don't know. I don't get it from her. I'm like, I think my shuffling's alright. I think I do an okay job. But half the time the cards like flip around mid-shuffle or fall on the floor. Like, I'm just a klutz. So.
Yeah, or they just get stuck into each other. Like, you think they should just slot together, but they just go... Like, I can do a very basic riffle shuffle, and I think that's about it. But, yeah, maybe me and your tale would be that suddenly you're very good at shuffling cards, and you're just, like, doing the magician thing of spraying them between your hands, and...
I don't know. So, for example, when we're, again, playing card games as a family... like my mother's tale is very clear because all she does is just complain about how bad her hand is. And I'm like, you're kind of giving things away a little bit. Just a tad. Whereas, I don't know, I think my tale is probably giggling. Like, because I know I've got something that's probably going to be really, really good or really mean or something. But yeah, I don't really know how to play poker. Like, the kind of card games I know how to play are like, like Rummy, Old Maid, which is called multiple things in different countries. It's just like a trick-taking game that my mum taught me, that her mum taught her, and etc. etc. And oh gosh, I know the rude word for it, but you know the game I'm talking about.
Poohead, yeah.
Poohead, yeah. Classic, Poohead, yeah. There you go.
Or Dino Dump, as it was released by Big Potato. But it's basically Poohead. And it comes with stickers that smell like poo.
They mostly smell like garlic, but yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
I think, Lolies, you're probably there because you were probably working for Big Potato at the time. I think it was just before I joined Dicebreaker.
Yeah.
But Big Potato had a media event with a bunch of people, and I was playing Dino Dump, and I don't have a sense of smell. I'm a nosmic. And I was losing very badly at this game, so I was just getting these stickers put on me, and I almost felt the pressure of like going, oh no, they smell so bad, because you just feel like you have to be like, oh yeah, like this, oh no, rather than just, oh, you put a sticker on me and I can't smell it. It's not an issue. But there we go.
You're being very gracious. You were like trying to let other people know that what they were doing was making you feel bad.
Yeah, gracious, socially awkward, whichever way you want to spin it, it's fine. Lolies, if that's all you've been playing.
That's all, just the two games that we've been talking about for like a year.
Meg, let's move over to you. What have you been playing recently, or what have you been enjoying?
So last night I played another exit game. I've played 2 so far, so I had them sent to me, so I've been playing them through like difficulty level, and we did the abandoned cabin, and I'm a big baby. We did great. We did it in 50 minutes, but the music is so scary because you can play like the app and it's like scary cabin music, and after we played, my husband was like, how did you like it? And I was like, I didn't like the music. I was nervous the whole time. It was very scary. The puzzles were great. So I really like those. We've been really enjoying them. We finally got to play Gloomhaven again this past weekend. Finally, after like 6 weeks of not playing. I'm lucky that I live with my husband, so we get to play a bit. And that's pretty much it. I feel like we played something else on Monday, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, we played Tiny Epic Pirates.
Oh, amazing.
Ah.
Is that one of the new ones? There have been so many Tiny Epic games at this point.
It
that
is.
I've lost track
And I
of them.
honestly haven't played too many, so it wasn't so bad for me, but it was really cute. I really liked it. It was fun. It was very quick.
Did it have pirate meatballs? Is that one of the first Tiny Epic things
it
here?
does.
They have like fun little meatballs.
The meatballs are I don't want to say they're okay. They are pirate ones. They're good. But the ships are more fun. There's like little ships that it comes with, and you can like carry cargo around. So that I think was cute. I like it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Can you run them along the back of your fingers like
Just doing
I
little
could certainly
cartwheels.
try.
I've played the Exit games. I've never used the app.
Yeah.
Is it just like a timer? Does it have the hints on as well?
It's a timer,
okay, right.
and then if you like when you end, it'll do the stars for you. So like you can say if you used
nice.
any clues and stuff, and we didn't. So it was basically like just our time, and it was like, oh, you did it under an hour, 10 stars.
Wow, that is really good. Like I've played the Exit games. I didn't realize there was an app or anything like that. So that's really cool. I didn't realize there was music and everything.
And the first one we did was the sunken ship, and that one was cooler for me, like for the audio, because it was like bubbles and like bloop 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 and being underwater. And this one it was like things like snapping behind you and creepy noises and things growling and scary.
Nice.
I think great.
I think I've done Abandoned Cabin. I think that's what I think I did. I've done 3 or 4, and Abandoned Cabin. I think I recognize the cover of it. Yeah, I like the Exit games a lot. I think they're really great. I prefer them to real like escape room games actually.
A lot cheaper.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper, exactly.
Yeah, and you get just spooky music.
I've like you. I'm like a big fan. I've not done Sunken Ship, so I like. Would you recommend it compared to Cabin? I think Cabin was the first one they did. So
Sunken Ship. Cabin I would recommend. Sunken Ship was okay. It was okay. I think if you've played other ones, it's not... Because it is the lightest. It's the easiest one. So I would say if you've played others, it's okay. If it's your introduction one, it's really good. That's the one I started with, but I wouldn't go back now. Like if I played Cabin, I wouldn't think it was as fun.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Oh, yeah.
You played the Star Wars ones, right, Matt?
That's Unlock Star Wars.
I'm getting confused with Unlock now.
Yeah, so Unlock is the one that requires the app, and I think like Unlock is good, but I think because so much of it is dependent on the app, you put in kind of like these almost like pin codes, like 4-digit pin codes to unlock clues. It's like it leans on that quite heavily, so a lot of the puzzles you're solving are just like, okay, we've got 2 items, do they go together, put the number in the app, that unlocks like the next card. Whereas I think the Exit games, without giving too much away, and I've done Cabin, I've done a few of the others, I don't know if this is true for Sunken Ship as well, Meg, but like they use the physical components in a really interesting way, where sometimes you're having to cut stuff up or like place things over each other. There's one that involves like a really kind of wild, inventive... Maybe that's not the Exit games. There's a different escape box room game thing that involves like having to put stuff in a fridge, which is really interesting and strange and just kind of comes out of nowhere, like this really creative thing.
Yeah, the Exit games, utilize several different things like that, and like sometimes like the answers are potentially on the box.
Yeah,
I guess the trade-off is like with Unlock, you can give it to someone else to play. Whereas with the Exit ones, because you're actively like shopping stuff up or whatever, you just play it once. But I suppose it's what you prefer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did with Unlock. Is I think this is only in the UK and Europe. I think in the US they sell them separately, the Unlocks, but in the UK they do like free to a box. So you'll get like free, like the Star Wars one is like 1 on Hoth, 1 on Jeddah, 1 on an Imperial Star Destroyer. And there are some others that are like, there's one set in the World of Oz, like the Wizard of Oz, and another one that's like Sherlock Holmes. But yeah, you're right. It's like, all of them are just a deck of cards and the app. So once you're done, like we just pass them on to a friend. But the Exit game ones is like, guess we're recycling this. It's more like a
I remember when I did my first Exit game, I had to like throw everything away. It felt very weird because I was like, just throwing a board game out. But I'd cut everything up and like written on stuff, so it was like,
I guess it's more like an escape room experience.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Unlock games are more like a puzzle style game. And they're firing those out like at a velocity, an extreme velocity. They're just Like, I swear the amount of news pieces I've done on New Unlock games, like, they're really going for it with those.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with the... maybe it's because they take less time to make, whereas the exit ones, you know, there's more thought put into...
There have definitely been a number of exit ones. There's a Lord of the Rings one coming up, and I think actually there is a sequel to the Cabin one. I think it's literally called The Return to the Abandoned Cabin.
Yay!
I think that's coming out in October time or later this year. That might just be a German release, but yeah, so it's... I think they've definitely put out a number of them.
Yeah, the first one we played, we
Exit
thought
or-
about trying to like keep it intact, and I was like halfway through, I was like, no, oh no.
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could, but it would be so
Yeah.
much work that you just need to like copy out specific things onto a different piece of paper. So it's probably not worth the effort at some point. But cool. Is it original Gloomhaven you're playing, or is it Jaws of the Lion?
Original. So we
Nice.
started with regular. That was a wedding present. So we started playing Gloomhaven late 2019? No, early 2019. Quarantine and COVID just like took a year out of life.
Yeah.
Now my timelines are crazy. But then when Jaws of the Lion came, we started it a little bit, and then we did like a 12-hour session through Christmas because we were alone for
Whoa.
Christmas. We played from like 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. and then had like two scenarios after that. And kind of like
Wow.
ran through Jaws of the Lion. So now we're back in Gloomhaven trying to finish before Frosthaven, which I think we can do, but we shall see.
Meg and I also, or at least used to play the same character in Gloomhaven. Brute. So
I'm
There
a
you
big Enox person. Inox
twinsies.
person.
Yeah, I love the Inox
I
as well.
love
I'm like especially on the app, like on the digital version, it's great because you can quite easily like play some other characters and doesn't, you know, like try them out for size and stuff. And I'm always like, no one is as good as him. He's the best.
And it made me love the hatchet from Jaws of the Lion. I played the Brute,
Okay.
the hatchet, and then from the Brute, I didn't do an unlocked character because we unlocked a lot of squishy people. So I let my husband pick someone squishy, and I took the Cragheart. And then now I'm in an unlocked character. I'm in the Secret Lightning Bolt one, and she is
Right.
perfect. It's great.
Nice.
I should go back to Gloomhaven. It's been a long time. I keep looking at the digital version
So good.
and being like, yeah, maybe I should just get into that.
Mate, I've still got that copy of Jaws of the Lion. I've not opened it. And you know why? Because we still not finished Pandemic Legacy Season. And we probably won't finish it before my flatmate moves out.
Oh.
You'll have to play with a webcam.
It's fine. She's not going too far, so she can always come around.
All right. Meg, is that everything you've been playing? Anything else?
Yeah, pretty much. The past week or so.
All right. Alex, Meehan, let's move over to you.
Yeah, I'm really boring this week. Back to a boring week again. Playing the same stuff that I've sort of talked about before. So we played Root last
We all
week.
played Root.
Love Root.
Oh yeah, that was my first game of Root.
Mm.
Ever?
Yeah.
Wow.
On
I
stream.
never-
Jumping in on a stream, learning as you go.
Yeah.
You played really, really well for a super complex game.
Trial by
like,
fire.
You did really, really well.
Yeah, it was a lot. I remember like the two of these play a good bit, and they were like explaining the game to me, and I was sat there like, this sounds like nonsense. This doesn't what. And then yeah, I usually learn by playing anyway. So yeah, I played what was I
The
playing again?
Vagabond.
Vagabond.
So fun.
I was gonna say Scoundrel, but that's the character from Gloomhaven. So yeah, I was playing the Vagabond.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked it, but I'd need to play it a good few times to have a go at different characters and to get used to the Vagabond. Even I think I'd need a few games just to get my head around that even more. But that was great. That was really fun.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's the worst thing about Root, which is a game I love very much, is just the amount of investment you need to pour into it, which I think the app helps with but doesn't eliminate.
No.
Because like even if you're just playing the Vagabond, like playing well often involves like knowing how all the other factions function, so you kind of have to learn 4 games before you're in with a shot of winning. And like if you're up against people who have played a long time and know how they all function, they just have a much better idea. But like I say, I was genuinely like super impressed by like you played really, really well. Like your score was really high for a first time through playing a faction that is like I think the simplest in terms of rules, but not the simplest in terms of how you get towards victory. because you often have a lot more kind of things to consider, whereas the others are just like churn out birds, churn out cats, like build some stuff. Vagabond is a lot tougher.
You had the added handicap of having to play against Matt Jarvis, which is like it's its own form of challenge, because for some reason you've been blessed by the gods with the innate ability to just absolutely steamroll over everyone else, regardless of what faction you're playing.
Yeah.
Like, at first we were like, oh, it's just because he's playing the Alliance, it's fine, this always happens. But then it was like, oh, you played the Airy, which was the faction I just played and absolutely stank at.
Yeah.
And then you just came along and were like, yeah, I won. Fine.
Spoilers.
I got very lucky with the Alliance, particularly. I drew cards very early on where I was able to get bases out and start churning, which I think, again, Root is not a perfect game, but I think it's a great game, but it definitely has elements of you just get lucky, like many games. Like, I just drew very good cards at the start, and then was kind of off on a head start. So
it's the kind of game that I get really salty about.
I couldn't tell. You hit it really, really well.
But also, like, I still really love it. So, like, I'll be angry for a bit and be like, this is the worst. But then I'll be like, but I also love you so much, Rue. Like, I'll take you back, baby. It's fine. No, like, I always enjoy playing that game. And we do eventually want to do the Riverfolk expansion, which was released for the digital version, which we're very excited about. Apparently the lizards are even worse than the Woodland Alliance. So, I'm gonna see what that's all about. I also played some more Unmatched. We finished our second game with that, with the other two characters in the set that we have, which is like the season 1 and like I would definitely say those other two characters. So we first played with Alice and Medusa, and then the second game we played with Arthur and Sinbad. And I kind of feel like Alice and Medusa are better. Like, they're all really good, but like, I think those two kind of work a bit better, or like have a bit more interesting things going on with them. But we played that game, and like my flatmate and I are really enamored with Unmatched. So now I'm like, I want to try the other ones that they put out. I want to see what the really, like, redonkulous ones are like the Jurassic Park one and the Buffy one, or like the Smoke and is it Cobble and
Fog, something like that.
Cobble and Fog. There's like a Sherlock Holmes like Invisible Man sort of thing, because I'm really into gothic stuff. So that's like, I love that thing. Mondo and oh my gosh, help me out here, Matt.
Restoration Games.
Restoration Games. If you're listening to this, send me more Unmatched stuff. I want it. I will talk about it.
Yeah, I'd like to play a match. It seems fun. I can see why Alice and Medusa, like, on paper, because it's King Arthur and Sinbad, you said, right? Yeah. It's like they are, in my mind, they're just kind of swingy sword, like walk up and chop stuff, whereas Medusa and Alice seem more fun in terms of the inspiration.
So the kind of main mechanics with Arthur and Sinbad are, Arthur's kind of, like you'd think, he's a full-on aggressive, like, he can boost his attacks every time. Whereas, like, other characters will need to play certain cards that allow them to boost their attacks. But Arthur can boost any of his attacks whenever he wants. But the interesting thing is that his deck is definitely more designed around aggression than defense. So he has far fewer defensive cards. So he's kind of more designed around just going full in and, like, trying to take you down as quickly as he can before he gets knocked out. Whereas, like, Merlin as his sidekick is kind of where a lot of more of his strategic stuff comes in. Whereas Sinbad has an interesting mechanic where he has particular cards called voyage cards, which are actually based on the different adventures he has in, like, is it 1001 Nights? I think he's featured in as a book. So they're all based on his adventures in that book. But the more voyage cards you have in your discard pile, the more spaces he can move. So he's all about movement across the board, because he's a lot squishier than Arthur, for example, in our game, and he can't put out as much damage, but he's got much more potential for movement. So like Arthur's a lot slower, so it's kind of like using your advantages to kind of overcome the challenges that the other character presents. I would be really interested to see how a full-on 4-player game would work, like in terms of the way the characters are balanced. But in terms of the 2-player games, like, it is really interesting. At no point did we feel like, oh, this character is clearly better than the other one. It's more just like how we preferred to play. I will say, like, I feel like Sinbad has a lot more luck involved, because when I was playing as them, like, I just wasn't drawing any voyage cards, so it meant that I couldn't use his ability until I had those cards, like, and I could actually play them. But I still won, so it's not like a complete, handicap. But yeah, Unmatched, really good. We played some more Keyforge, Matt. Again,
we did, yeah.
The week of Salt continued. From Ticket to Ride, which we also played, Route, and then Keyforge, because I played against you and it was the worst. And I got really mad because at one point I was literally facing a board of like just teeming with minions that you put out. And it just got to the point where I basically conceded, because there was
it was
really,
pretty rough. That match was rough.
There was honestly, it was not like I rage quit. I was salty, but it was more like I literally cannot see any way like through this, because you were playing as Sanctum, which is like basically the house that's all about just setting up an armor, like a wall of armor. And you had characters that basically, I think they captured Ember from me. They had so much armor that I would have to try and get something out there to kill them. Otherwise, I just wouldn't be able to. Because, like, Keyforge is interesting in the fact that it's not about defeating your opponent, it's about forging keys, which means that it's not necessarily the end of the world if your opponent's got some really strong minions, because you can find ways around that. But because his minions could capture any Ember I had, it meant that if I couldn't defeat them, I'm basically like, I'm never going to forge a key because I'm never going to have enough Ember. So it just was the face of the fact that...
Yeah, I think I had a creature as well that increased the amount of Ember you needed to forge the key.
Yeah.
And that was in the middle of the row. So, like, Keyforge is you play on flanks of the row of cards, and cards can have effects on the cards in between them. So I had that flanked by, I think, 2 cards that then boosted its health. So it was basically impenetrable to kill it, but it made forging keys so hard for you. Yeah, it was a rough run. We were playing with Chase as well, our lovely news reporter.
I beat Chase.
You did beat Chase, yes. And then Chase and I played a game where we accidentally ended up with mirror decks, because we were playing on the Crucible, which is like an online version. So
really
normally
good.
Only
really
one
good.
copy of every deck, yeah. But that match went on for over an hour, because we basically just kept pulling the same cards, and it was just a case of I'd fill stuff up, he would wipe the board, he'd fill stuff up, I'd wipe the board, and we kind of went in circles, and it took an hour for me to eventually pull ahead with just kind of lucky card draw. So yeah, it was an interesting one after we played as well.
I mean, you've got to remember, Keyforge isn't designed to be played like that. No. Like, everyone is supposed to have their own unique deck. So the fact that it was like that is just a fault of the weird, like, because Chase and I got the same deck as well. Like, we were picking randomly, but like for some reason we both chose the same deck, and it's just the weird case of you picking the same deck as Chase. But yeah, I just left partway through the game because I was like, this isn't going.
Yeah, it went on for a while.
But yeah, that's what I've been playing, Matt Jarvis. What about you?
Well, as well as Ticket to Ride, which we played and you can watch the video of.
Please watch the video.
And as well as Root, which you can watch the video of. And Keyforge, which we just spoke about. I played a bit of Magic the Gathering Commander on Monday, the bank holiday. I played with a friend of the site, Jason Coles. I had never played Commander before. Jason is a huge fan of it. He's written a number of very good guides, which I used to teach myself, which you can see on the website. But for those who aren't familiar, Commander's it's kind of like supersized Magic. So instead of a 60 card deck, you have, is it 60 or 40? I guess you can change the amount. But anyway, instead of a regular Magic deck, you have 100 cards. Instead of 20 life, you have 40 life. And you can only have one copy of each card in your deck, and those cards have to match what's known as the color identity of your commander, which is a legendary creature. And the color identity basically means they need to match the mana colors that you would spend to play that card normally. And that card sits separate, so it is like a leader, and you can summon it onto the battlefield at any time. And when it's defeated, it kind of withdraws, but you can then bring it out at a more expensive cost each time. But the fun thing with Commander, so Jason very kindly built a couple of decks for me to use, because I don't know how to build a Magic deck, despite the fact there's a very useful guide on Dicebreaker.com. But building a Commander deck is quite a specific thing. You, like with Magic decks, you build around certain ideas or gameplay concepts. So we were using decks, and the first match I managed to win by inflicting poison counters on Jason. So it wasn't even a case of kind of reducing his life. Once you get to 10 poison counters, that's it, you lose. And I had a card that allowed me to place 2 for every creature I attacked with. So at one point I just managed to place 6 poison tokens on him and just win. And having never played Commander before, one of the really fascinating things about it is that because you have so much life and because you have so many cards, and you only have one of each, it just gives you room to pull off these kind of bizarre combinations. Because you have a bit more time, you have more rounds, you have more cards, you're not going to run out of cards, which normally in Magic you'd lose if you run out of cards. So Jason at one point pulled an enchantment that summoned a creature called a Fractal. And at the end of every turn during the upkeep phase, he would be able to spawn a new Fractal, and it would essentially double its power and toughness, which is attack and health in layman's terms. So it went from 2/2 to 4/4 to 8/8 to 16/16 to 32/32, 64/64. So it was enough to just wipe me in one attack. So it became this thing of me trying to knock back these creatures so that he couldn't get in an attack. But because it spawned, I couldn't get rid of the enchantment because I didn't have any spells that would get rid of it. So I was just trying to kill them, but then they were coming back at twice the power every time. So yeah, it was really fascinating. He wiped the floor with me that time. He also wiped the floor with me the time afterwards using a different... he maybe poison countered me. It was another one where he didn't reduce my life to 0. There was kind of a different way of getting around it. But it's really interesting. Commander, from what I understand, is hugely popular. I know that it is the preferred format, I think, of Jason and a lot of other people. It's not on Magic Arena, so we were actually playing on Tabletop Simulator, using a very good mod that allows you to import decks. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed my time with it. I think you can play multiplayer as well, so you can play 4 people, which also works with kind of the amount of health and cards that you have.
Sounds
Meg,
wild.
Yeah, Meg, you're not. Are you familiar with Commander? Nice.
I know. I've played Commander. I've played Magic. I never really got into it enough to make my own decks. Because the other thing you can do is draft, and I used to draft all the time because you would pay and then get those cards, and then you could win more cards. But Commander is really fun. That I think too. Gosh, if I'm wrong, don't tell me, anyone. But I think for Commander, you can go a lot further back than Standard. When you play normal competitive, you can only go so far back. Whereas Commander, I think you can get, you can use almost any card. I'm sure there are some that are banned and stuff, but I think that's why it's more fun, too, because you can get, some of the wackadoo cards. And I don't know if, Unhinged, if that set can be in it, or, Modern Masters, but, I can just imagine the cards you can use together with it.
Yeah, I think that was also one of the things is, like I say, Jason built these decks. So we were pulling cards from Strixhaven and Kaldheim, the latest decks, and then there would be something from 1996. And it's a
Here's
card that I've never come across before. Yeah, exactly. And it was kind of this really interesting showcase of what Magic can do kind of at its extremes. Just giving that much more room to pull off these kind of wild combos. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think you can play it on Magic Online, but I don't think it's in Magic Arena just yet. But yeah, Commander's a very cool thing.
And the other fun fact that I'm pretty sure Magic, you need a 60 card deck plus I think you could play with 100 card deck in
you're right,
regular
you're right.
Magic. Even, I think you can bring as many as you want. You just have to have at least 60, which is crazy.
Mm.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you just have an enormous deck so you never
Because
run out of cards,
it kind of like dilutes it too. That if you have like 4 copies of a card, if you have 100 cards, then the odds of you getting it are less than if you only have the 60. You want the combos, but I'm pretty sure in Pokemon, I know in Pokemon, it's a hard 60. Like you have to stop there.
Yeah, like most card games that I've played is like a hard number. Like this is the amount of cards you can have. So magic, you know.
Yeah, magic.
It's magic.
Magic.
Yeah, it's cool. The other things I've been playing, like I say, play Root, play Keyforge, play Ticket to Ride. They're all great. Continue to love them. I played Oath as well, speaking of Root. So Oath is the new game from Cole Worley of Root fame. We've played it on the channel. You can see me, Lolies and Wheels playing with Cole Worley. But bless you. I played again. So in kind of very basic terms, Oath is a fascinating game because it's about a kingdom, like a land. The cards you play on the board are like site cards and the inhabitants of this land, and one person always starts as the ruler of the land. They start as the chancellor, and everyone else generally is an exile, so they're trying to get the throne and the chancellor is trying to maintain power. But it boils down into this kind of strategic game where you can win through various different methods, but the way that you win and who you are when you win and the cards you use to win then affect the next game that you play. So it's kind of like a legacy game, except that you never tear anything up, you never write on anything. They're not permanent changes, but what it does is it changes the setup for the next game. So my wife and I played. I started as the Chancellor, and I started out with control of the land. So I had the most kind of like war bands on things. I had kind of, dominance power, that kind of thing. And that was kind of what I was aiming for, because after a certain amount of rounds, the Chancellor kind of wins by default if they hold on to the most land. But my wife was able to complete a different objective called the Darkest Secret, which kind of represents this idea of like intrigue rather than military might. So she didn't control any sites, like military-wise. I was just kind of scrapping over those myself. But she was building up secrets, which are this kind of resource which represent secrets and information. And she was able to hold on to that. And at some point, by the time I tried to then come after her for it, she had built up so many secrets that she just was able to hold it to the point where she then won. But because she had won by holding the secret, she didn't have any kind of military control over places. And so when you're packing up, you kind of reset the world, and the way, like I say, the way that you win can affect the cards that you use for the next turn. So because she didn't control any sites, kind of everything went away, which kind of represented the fact that, my kingdom just got devastated and kind of wiped out. So all the places that I had held were gone. And she was almost building a kingdom from the ground up. She was this kind of upstart exile that had built up these secrets in intrigue, but didn't need to use the military might. I hadn't formed... You can kind of form alliances, so you can turn exiles into citizens as the Chancellor. But they can then overthrow you by completing a different objective, or they can kind of... and that can then affect how things work as well, because they might just be like cast out by a different ruler. I'm probably making this sound much more complicated than it is. It's a lot more simple than Root to grasp, because you're not using like drastically different rules. Yeah, no. Most people are using kind of the same basic actions, which is like you move different places, you play different cards, you have advisors, you trade for things, you trade for secrets, you trade for money. But the thing that I think is really fascinating about it is it looks amazing because it's by Carl Ferrin, the Root's by Carl Ferrin of Root, and it on paper, on the table, it seems quite dry, because what you're doing is kind of this abstracted, like, I'm going here, I'm trading for favour, I'm trading for secrets. It's relatively kind of like broad. There's no like story text or flavour text. But actually, as you play, it kind of just creates these stories among the group themselves. So like say, like the story that ended up in our group was that my wife was kind of like the exile and built up all this intrigue and didn't need to fight for power, kind of like swept underneath with like more of a, you know, whispering secrets and undermining things that way, rather than just crushing things with like a big army. So yeah, it's really fascinating. I was chatting to Johnny as well, Johnny, formerly of Dicebreaker, because he has also been playing Oath, and he had a completely different story, where I think he was overthrown. I think he was Chancellor, and someone was what's known as like the successor to the Chancellor, and he was overthrown that way. So like his game will be completely different, despite the fact that we both started out with similar setups for the first game. Like his world, the next time he plays, will be completely different to the world when we play. Which I think is, it's a really fascinating game.
Yeah, it sounds like they've started with a very simple system of like trading things to get resources, playing cards, moving places. But the way that they've made it really feel unique or like complex is through that mechanic of like, depending on how a game is won or how a game is finished, the next game will then be like altered by that. I think that's a really good way of doing game design. It's like rather than having a complicated system and doing all that stuff as well, which I think would make it like, whoa, this is way too much. Like having that built on top of a fairly straightforward system, I think is definitely a really clever way of doing it, because then it's making the unique elements of it really shine above all else.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to play this weekend.
Yes, with the root crew, because I'm hoping to review it at some point. So I'm going to try and get in as many games as possible.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I say, there are elements I can compare to other games, because like at its heart, you move around, you get money, you pay for stuff, you do fights. But then it's kind of the surrounding stuff that is so fascinating about it, where it takes this, like I think Cole has described it as like a board game with a memory. And it is kind of that. Like it just, you can play it forever. It never runs out, but it just has different cards each time, and it like you don't have to play with the same group. But if someone new joins, they will kind of see the effect of past games that you've played. Like not explicitly, but it will change in reaction to what people do and how people win. So it's a really fascinating game. It's cool. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. Although I started looking at the rules for the Clockwork Prince, which is like the automated player, and my mind started to bet there's like this massive flow chart on a reference sheet. And it's like, okay, if this is true, go to this one, and then you're in this segment, so do this. I think it should be simpler than it appears. I think you just move a thing around each turn. It's not like you have to digest it all at once, but it was quite a lot to look at and go, oh, wow, okay. But I hope to give it a proper look. All right, let's move on over to news, a shorter news segment than usual.
It's ultra news. The chopper's going at like...
Turbo news.
Turbo speed.
Just the highlights of this week, trimmed down for your listening pleasure.
Matt Jarvis, help! Dennis Hopper is threatening me. If I don't go at this speed, he's gonna blow up the chopper. You need to help me, Matt.
I assume that's a reference to speed. I don't really know speed. My go-to Dennis Hopper movie is like Blue Velvet, which is a very different film from what I understand.
Not Super Mario Brothers.
No, I've never seen the Super Mario Brothers film, and I never will.
No, come on.
I do kind of want to watch that new Mortal Kombat movie for what it's worth, even though I hear it's not great.
Yeah.
It's also like 16 quid to rent it in the UK. I was reading Wes's piece over on Eurogamer, and it's like 16 quid to rent a film is...
That's a rip-off, mate.
That's quite a lot of money, especially when
you pay in the cinema.
That's the thing, right? It's like cinema, they've got floor space, they've got staff, and like films are not cheap to make, but like £16 for a digital rent seems quite a lot of money. But there we go. That's capitalism for you.
Just watch the original one.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably free, I would guess, or very cheap to rent. You get to see Goro in a rubber suit.
I'm sold, mate.
You get to see that incredible clip where someone is like, and now, you die. It's fine. It's fine, that didn't land. Let's move on to news.
Sorry, Matt.
If anything, that was fitting to the terrible delivery of it in the film.
That is.
So I'll roll with it. I wrote this short story about this tabletop RPG Inspirals. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's kind of like Inspire meets Isles. I've never said it out loud. Inspirals is what I'm going for. But the really interesting thing about this is just why I wrote it up. Is that it's a tabletop RPG that is kind of designed to teach you sign language as you play. So it's by Richard Oxenham, who has worked with a deaf charity for over 10 years and was kind of inspired by playing D&D with a group of deaf teenagers, I think over near Bristol. So Inspirals, it takes place in kind of like an Arthurian, Celtic-inspired fantasy land. And it does use dice, so you roll 3d6 to resolve certain tests. But sign language exists in the land as, I think they call it shaping. So it's kind of what people use to cast spells. So it comes with kind of a reference sheet, both for like BSL, so British Sign Language, and ASL, American Sign Language. And so the players are kind of encouraged to use sign language to cast spells and to solve puzzles and so on. Which I just thought I really wanted to highlight because I have not come across another tabletop RPG that kind of has representation of deaf culture in this way and particularly uses sign language as a gameplay element. But it's kind of lovely to see. Like, you don't, anyone can play it. Like, it's not the case that you need to know sign language off the bat. Like, if anything, it's there to teach people. But also, if you already know sign language, then you can play it and just enjoy it as an RPG that involves sign language as well. So yeah, I think it was kickstarted last year, and it's coming out next month. I think you can head over to the itch page I think there is a preview or a quick start, but you can also get the full thing when it comes out. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight it's a really cool thing.
It's
so
really
go
awesome.
Check it out. Yeah. Also, the art's really nice.
Yeah, it's very cool that there's people making more stuff like that, and I think that's like this when we've discussed like big companies using Kickstarter, for example, and like how we're like not massively fans of it or whatever. Like, this is exactly why. It's because for me Kickstarter is a place that allows people like this to be able to make projects like this that like big companies might not necessarily take on, or big publishers or whatever. And yeah, this is awesome. This is exactly the kind of thing in how Kickstarter also has kind of helped the board game industry like just become more interesting in like the games it brings out and the representation that it represents. It's I actually really, really want to get a copy of this, and because I've always wanted to learn sign language actually, so it's for me this is really cool.
A few weeks ago I was chatting to a lady who works for like a deaf-blind kind of charity, and she has a hearing impairment, and so do I. So we were kind of talking about that kind of shared experience. She was like, "Oh, you should learn some sign language. I think it would be really useful for you." And I was like, you know what? I really should, because ultimately, like, I don't know what my future's going to be like, but I think it would be a useful thing. So having this kind of RPG is like really interesting in that regard. I think I don't know why more role-playing games don't like try and teach you actual skills, because like with some board games, for example, like learning how to play them can like teach you skills like deduction or like strategy or things, even dexterity to an extent. Whereas like role-playing games, obviously they're more about exploring kind of narrative, and I guess you could learn social skills or like skills of empathy or storytelling, things like that. But it would be interesting to see more role-playing games that do like actively teach you how to do things. Wasn't there a role-playing game about cooking where you like actually cooked some of the dishes in it? I'm trying to remember what that was. Cool.
It was. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, that absolutely does exist.
Yeah, that's like a really cool, fun. Not something you'd be able to do too often, but.
And And also worth noting that this is by someone who, is deeply embedded in the deaf community and I believe worked with deaf consultants as well on the shaping concept in that, and there are video tutorials and things like that. So it's not kind of like, it's not just kind of like an add-on to an existing game system or a character that is deaf but isn't represented any further than that. It's clearly been built with like the deaf community and culture in mind, in a way that's insensitive.
Cool.
Sensitive.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think too, for it to be like the magic that is the casting, like, yeah, you're trying to teach this to people, but also to those that, are deaf and hard of hearing and have to be the ones using it. Like, you're almost putting them, in the place of power, where it's like, okay, well, you can, you know how to do all the magic, and they can kind of, it's cool that it gives them, almost like a boost as well. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool.
For sure.
All right. The other story I wanted to pull this week to highlight, one by Chase, who's already mentioned, our wonderful reporter, is Stationfall. And the reason I pulled this is it's kind of like Among Us as a board game. Of course, like there are plenty of board games that are kind of like Among Us, like Werewolf and so on. Like Social Deduction isn't.
Among Us is basically
a board game. Yeah.
It's not uncommon, but this I think is particularly interesting because it kind of takes that. It's more direct as a kind of thing. They've cited Among Us as kind of being, or this being similar to Among Us. So it takes place on board a space station. But the interesting thing is that there's not just one imposter or one traitor, but everyone kind of has their own ulterior motives and objectives. Okay. So it's kind of like a social deduction game in which everyone is a potential traitor and like, everyone's out for their own good.
A bit like Dead of Winter in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just straight up, you are trying to make things bad. It's more like, you want to achieve this goal, otherwise you lose. So.
Yeah. So it sounds really interesting. So the concept is that you're on this space station. I think it's falling to Earth, and you've got 15 minutes before it burns up, and you need to kind of get off. But you have various identities. I think one starts revealed, but then the others you can choose to keep hidden. So you're trying to work out what people are after. But it sounds quite complex. There's quite a lot going on. So it's not just kind of like a reskinned werewolf or a reskinned Dead of Winter. There's actually quite a lot to consider, but I'm just finding information about it. So it's currently on Kickstarter until May 16th, and you can pick it up for about 50 quid, and then it's coming out later this year. But it looks interesting. It sounds kind of cool. I think, Among Us is a game that a lot of people like. Some folks it didn't chime with, but I think social deduction games are pretty hot at the moment.
I mean, they've always
Among Us
and
Werewolf
like,
and so on.
I think it's because they're so purely social that a lot of people who maybe don't play a lot of board games are drawn to them because, like, it's not about sitting at a table and moving pieces around. Really, it's more about sort of interacting. But I know I'm really enjoying board games that implement social deduction or hidden role, elements into them. Because as someone who's played quite a lot of board games now, a lot of social deduction games kind of feel very, very simple, which is obviously a massive part of their appeal. But to me, it's kind of like not really enough, unless we are just doing an evening of silly party games or whatever. But having games that kind of implement social deduction within a larger space, like Hong Kong, like Deception Murder in Hong Kong, like that has social like deduction or like someone is the killer, but it's also wrapped up in like a whole other, finding clues, then making sure that you interact properly with people so you don't accidentally reveal like the witnesses' identities and stuff like that. It's like we've already had a lot of very basic social deduction games. Let's see what else we can do with this formula.
Yeah, exactly. And like combining it with other kind of gameplay things where it's like managing an economy or kind of doing the deeper strategic stuff, but you also happen to have a secret.
Among Us is a little bit like that in the sense that you have like the mini games and the stuff like that.
Yeah, you have to go do terrible mini games and then you get to you get to talk about it afterwards.
Jarvis's hot takes are seeping in. But then you obviously have the discussion elements. But like obviously, you know, to us maybe who we've played like some more complex versions of that, it can seem very simplistic. But like, hey, if this brings more people from among us to like tabletop, then like we are far from snobby.
Yeah, I think it's only a good thing, right? It's getting more people into board games.
Yeah.
Whatever route they find in. So
Yeah, I'm only ever snobby when it comes to two things, Matt Jarvis, and that is
Beans.
That is beans.
Look forward to the 57 top varieties.
Variety of beans. Yeah, there's gonna be some real. I'm gonna kill my darlings in this one. No, it's bread, and it's coffee, and I'm not skimping on those two things. I'm afraid it's got to be good. Yeah, there you go. Everything else, I'm an absolute trash bag. So
okay, I have to ask now. What's like what is being like quote unquote snobby about bread? What does that mean?
Okay, so I refuse to buy supermarket brand like bread because it is disgusting. So like co-op, like medium slice, whatever, I won't touch it because it's foul. But like it's got to be at least Warburton's or like one of the in-house bakery things. But you got to make sure you eat that stuff within 2 days, otherwise it's not.
This is the most bougie thing I've ever heard. Well, you know, you have to get the over-the-counter stuff, but you have to finish it.
No. As someone who is very passionate about bread-based products, I just feel if you know, again, obviously, I'm not dunking on people who can't like afford stuff. This isn't the purpose. Like, I'm just saying that, you know, when you pay a bit more, you get a lot out of it, and it's the same with coffee. I won't drink freeze-dried coffee because it's awful. It's like dirt. I'm not doing it. It's gotta be ground. It's gotta be ground coffee. There you go. I've just probably made a lot of people angry. So
who would have thought?
Everything else, I don't care. Like,
all right then. Freeze-dried coffee's fine. I've got preferences like anybody else, but
it just the taste just lingers very unpleasantly on the palate for the next 6 hours.
Freeze-dried coffee?
Yes.
Like, what does that mean?
Oh, okay. So like granulated coffee,
like the
stuff...
instant coffee.
Yeah,
instant coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was freeze-dried.
Well, yeah, that's another word for it. But like the stuff you just ladle into a cup, and then you pour water over it, and it's like an insult to coffee, in my opinion.
All right then. Well,
there you go.
I agree. I like regular coffee.
Look, again, I'm not dunking on anyone. I'm just saying. In my world, it's not acceptable.
This is where we get onto the whole: do you put the milk in first or the tea bag, or?
Oh, don't.
But let's not open that can of worms.
Kettle of fish.
Yeah. Those are the main news stories I've pulled. I've pulled some other highlights that I'll just run through quickly, which you can find on Dicebreaker.com. We've got Richard Jensen Parks has written a review of the Dune RPG, Adventures in the Imperium, which sounds interesting. It sounds very dense and very complex, much like the book. But it sounds like if you're into the book, that might it sounds pretty faithful to that big old universe.
If you like spies,
like more ways than one. If you like massive sandworms, Alex Meehan has written a guide on how to host a great game night when you can do that again.
The key is good bread and coffee.
Yeah, that's points 1 through 2, and there are only 2 points on that list.
It's a joke.
We've got Stories About Harsh Shadows, which is like a solo espionage game. We've got Broken Compass, which is kind of like an adventure RPG, which draws from Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider. Got Galactic, the second edition of Galactic, which is an RPG that's kind of in the vein of Star Wars. And we've got Jason Coles, who I mentioned earlier, writing about Pack Wars in Magic the Gathering, which sounds like a format I want to try because you just get some land cards, you get 1 booster pack, you never look at it, you just shuffle it all together, and that's that. That's your deck. It sounds very fun and very silly and quite broken in a fun way. But let's move on to the email section. If you've got an email...
You did a little pause.
I flinched because I thought it was coming. Like, oh no, the emails. If you've got an email for the Dicebreaker podcast, you can email podcast@dicebreaker.com. That's podcast@dicebreaker.com. Lolies, would you like to read this one from Will, please?
Sure. Will says, podcast question that just came to me. What is a non-gateway game that you're always excited to share with people new to the hobby? The once you're comfortable with games, I can't wait to play this with you game. For me, it's probably Wingspan.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thank you. There's definitely some like that. I'm gonna need a minute to think.
Yeah, non-gateway, I think, is like a... Because I think, like, gateway, by definition, is hard to judge, right? Because it's different for different people. Like, what's an introductory game? I think there are things like... I mean, Twilight Imperium is, like, massive and complex. But it's those kinds of games that I get really excited. Or something like Root, where it's like, here's a game that kind of does... It's so big and sprawling and complex, like, that you would never choose it as, like, oh, you're coming in from, playing Jenga or playing, like, Betrayal or Catan or something like that. You wouldn't immediately jump up to Root or Twilight Imperium. But those games where you sit around a table for, like, 5-6 hours and you come away with, like, a bunch of different stories. Diplomacy is another one. Diplomacy is massively intimidating. But it's just unlike anything else. It's all about, like, social interaction and kind of having those stories between people.
Yeah.
That I get so excited just to be like, what happens when you add these people in? Like what's going to happen this time? Because it's different every time.
Yeah, I was going to say Root, which is, like, a really predictable answer from this corner. But I think the thing is, it's a little bit cheaty because, like, I've not been playing Root that long. But, like, I think it's just the kind of game that if you were to say to someone, hey, there's a game that's capable of becoming, like, I don't know if a lifestyle makes in the sense that if you actually want to really experience Root, you have to play it, like, so many times. And then the more you play it, the more you're like, I want to keep playing this because... it's just so engaging and just, like, it's just incredible in terms of an experience of, like, it's a game that it's like an onion. You just keep unwrapping those layers. And the deeper you go in, the sweeter it gets.
Ogres and Root, that's what they say.
Yeah, it's true. Otherwise, I would say, like, a game like Eldritch Horror, in the sense that it's not something I've just, like, slammed down in front of anyone who'd not played board games before, because it is, one, it's enormous and incredibly intimidating, and two, even though a lot of it is just moving and rolling dice and reading, I think there are so many little bits about it that it could be a bit too much for someone who hadn't played a lot of board games before. And also, like, it's so thematic that I think a lot of people who are new to board games, that might be quite intimidating for them.
Could be quite punishing, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's also incredibly punishing.
Yeah.
But I kind of love it for that, because it fits so well with the theme of it being about these terrible eldritch beings that are far more powerful than you will ever be. And frankly, you are just screwed from the beginning. As long as you accept that, then it's a fantastic experience. Because Eldritch Horror is definitely a game that's more about the journey than the destination. And I think it really helps that it's a horror co-op experience. You're all in this together. It's not like one of you at the beginning is like, I'm gonna win, let's just accept that. It's more like, we probably will lose, but it's gonna be a fun time doing it. And boy, is it a fun time. And I'm just, like, really I'm really excited, to, like, the idea of slamming that down in front of someone going, right, you've made it to the next level. Like, prepare to feel both, thrills and chills, but also, oh no, this is terrible. I've actually written an article about it you can read on Dicebreaker.com about Eldritch Horror. So if you want to learn more, go and read that. What about you, Meg?
Before I say mine, Arkham Horror was my first board game. Like my first, board games when I was a kid. And then I got into TCG, and the first game I played was Arkham Horror. And it was second edition, and it taught me you can lose. Like right out the gate, board games will beat you when you play co-op. Yeah. And I loved it. That's what got me so into it, that the game beat me, and I was like, wait, the papers can do this and just cards? Let's do it again. So I love that experience of knowing what the game can do to you, and that you're playing against that like you would a computer. And I think people get mad when they lose games, but it's like, think of any levels you do in a video game, and do you beat it first time every single try? No. So why are you mad at the board game? But mine is Talisman. I force Talisman on everyone. And I get a lot of no's, that's the thing. But I ask for it all the time. Anytime someone's here, I'm like, how about Talisman though? I know we could do this, or that, but how about Talisman? And I get it sometimes, but not often enough.
There's so many different versions as well.
I was going to say, is it like vanilla Talisman?
I have regular, and then I have the expansions, and then I have Disney. I have Kingdom Hearts Talisman, but I do not have the Batman one.
Oh, nice.
But I like regular.
Okay.
OG
Yeah,
Talisman.
and there's a Star Wars one now, isn't there, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's like a talisman for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've never played Talisman, actually.
It's so fun.
That's cool.
You get
Well,
unicorns.
you found someone who'll play Talisman with you.
We're not going to say anything.
Why, do you two hate Talisman then?
I don't want to crush our guests.
It's okay. A lot of
I
people
don't care
don't
for
love it like I do.
Yeah, both Matt and I are not fans of it, but we want to encourage people.
I can respect people that do like
Yeah.
it. Like, that's fine. It's just not for me. That's fine.
We can accept that we don't necessarily share your opinion.
I do love Kingdom Hearts though, so actually, maybe Kingdom Hearts Talisman is the way in for
not.
me. No,
It's not as
okay.
Oh dear.
It's really not as good, and it's
okay.
kind of weird that like they change a lot in it, but they make it so that you can try to win from like the losing, but it doesn't make sense because you really can't. Like there's end scoring where you can score for things, but it's like if you're not the person that got to the end, it doesn't really matter. It's not as
It's a bit
good.
like the experience of playing Kingdom Hearts, right? You get to the end, but ultimately it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you find yourself wondering what's just happened and trying to add it all up. Yeah, that sounds like the Kingdom Hearts experience.
I've heard the Batman one is good, but I have not played that one.
You're thinking
saying my
about
name?
it.
Yeah.
Gloomhaven.
I know, I've been thinking for Well, I only have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, like physical copy, and I've not actually whipped it out yet. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think like I want to say Star Realms, but I feel like Star Realms like would be considered a gateway game for many. But for me, because I have such a personal connection to Star Realms, and I feel like sometimes for people who are entirely new to the hobby, just like the different factions and there's quite a lot of information to gain or like that you have to kind of take in your first game, that like, and also I really want people to like it, so I never make that like the first game I teach them or like one of the first games I teach them, because I really want them to like it, so I want to make sure that they're at a place where they kind of like have played a few games and I don't know, or like I guess their minds are a bit more open. So like even though I don't think you would consider like not a gateway game, like that would probably be a game that I wouldn't, that I would like hold on for a while before I teach it. I've been racking my head. I feel like there's loads, but I can't. The thing is, because I don't have my board game collection in front of me, I'm like,
what do I even own?
Remember it?
Yeah.
Try to remember it and try to remember like out of those games what, but I can't think. It's like everything that I'm thinking of is like, no, I teach that first time. No, I teach it. And I think also like with my own board game collection, I think most of the games that I own I would consider gateway games, because I don't really have a group that I would play heavier games with. So most of the time when I play my physical board games, it's with people who are new to the hobby or who haven't played a huge amount. So it's my games are pretty like beginner friendly, I would say. But yeah, I don't know. There's something.
So Matt and I have discussed this in the past. I have a thesis that will be my doctorate. Where I believe there is a genre of board game called bridge games, and we have talked about this, and I talk about it a little bit in this article I wrote about Dead of Winter, funnily enough. And I believe there is a kind of board game that is not a gateway game, but it's not quite hobbyist like.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's definitely I would completely agree with that. Yeah.
Cult,
I feel like Cult Express might be one of those.
Yeah. So like I believe there is a term we should be using called bridge games, which is specifically to describe games that are designed to move people over from gateway games to hobbyist games, and then the kind of ones that are like introduce some more sort of heavier mechanics or ideas into an otherwise fairly simple structure.
Yeah.
So I would describe Dead of Winter to be like that, in the sense that it's not the kind of game that I would put in front of someone who had never played board games before, but I also wouldn't say it's hugely complex or difficult to get into, but it has a lot of elements to it that are designed, I think, to kind of usher people into that kind of hobbyist area. So look on this space. Dictionary.
I like
bridge
it.
games.
I think
It's
we
gonna-
should make it a thing.
Yeah, we should
I
make
agree.
it a thing,
I'm on board.
Lolies.
I'm on board.
Yeah,
do it.
and put my name next to it and a little picture of my face. Inventor.
That's how it works. That's
is-
that's all a pattern is. You just have to put your name.
They will be the Meehan bridges.
Yeah! Oh, then I can have my own actual bridge. Yeah, and I'll squat on it, like, or I'll sit underneath it like a troll. And then
Made
people
of
have to
made
pay
of board
me.
games, Meehan. Just a bridge made of board games.
Yeah, like an arch.
Yeah, then they'll have to pay me sat underneath the bridge, otherwise I'm gonna go up there and I don't know, rat them.
On a similar sort of note, Meehan, would you like to read this one from Derek, please?
Yeah, I can read this question from Derek. Derek says, "Hi, Dicebreaker podcast. I watched your recent You've Never Played video
God.
on Ticket to Ride.
Very recent.
It looked like a lot of fun, as the route building looked quite satisfying. But I also wonder how much the random elements would aggravate me. Oh, really? What are other games of similar mechanics, perhaps with less random elements? Even if they are similar in a more abstract manner, I would love to hear about games that might scratch a similar itch. Thanks for the videos, and thanks as well if you can point me in the right direction." Thank you for your question, Derek. Let's see. Games that are less random than Ticket to Ride, but
route building. I mean, like, if you're into train games, the least random train games are 18xx games, or the genre known as 18xx, which is like a very hardcore train game style where you build routes, but you also manage the companies, like you manage the railroad companies, and they are brutal and cutthroat. Because you can essentially just tank companies to try and sink other people who have invested in the company. But there is, in most 18xx games, there is almost no luck. So it's purely kind of driven by your strategy, which makes them especially kind of nasty, because if you fall behind, it's very hard to catch back up. But they're a very particular kind of game, but they are... Yeah, they're a league away from Ticket to Ride, but if you like that kind of style, that might be up your street.
I think it's right, okay. I mean, they said you can say things that are similar in an abstract way. I always consider, like, everyone knows I don't like Ticket to Ride, right? So I would never suggest Ticket to Ride anyway. But there's a game that I really like called Marrakesh, which is the game where you like all have rugs and you have to move around the board and you place down your rugs, and it's an area control game at the end of the day. But you can kind of get in each other's grills, but it's kind of like fairly easy to avoid each other as well. There's a slight random element in terms of a die that you roll at the beginning of each turn to move some around the board. But it only goes up to like 4, so you're never gonna get like hugely far away from like the others. So I think there's a lot less random elements in it, but it's kind of like a similar feel, a similar vibe, like a similar kind of like very simple, seems very friendly, but can also be brutal if you play with Matt Jarvis, for example.
For example.
For example.
I mean, I've never played it with Matt, but I would assume that he would.
It sounds like we never will play it, Lolies. Thanks for getting that off of that.
Matt's natural sort of cruelty when it comes to
See, the funny thing about this is my preference is generally for card games. I like games where people work together or tell stories together, and Lolies is the one of the team who doesn't particularly
co-op.
care for card games, but now I'm the bad guy.
I think it's because it's a little bit like, you know, in the Avengers, where the Hulk is like, the secret is I'm always angry. I think with you, it's the secret is you are always mean.
Oh wow!
In the board game department. But like, you have to temper that by playing like co-op games, because then if you allow yourself to play games like Ticket to Ride and stuff, then like the that part of you comes out. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you're mean. I'm just saying like, you're too good.
I have a hoodie from PAX and it says, it's a co-op game, but I'm winning. And that makes me think about that, like, no matter
That's
what.
me. That's so me.
That's
I need
definitely
that.
Yeah,
the
see,
Lolies
that's
perspective.
Lolies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, it's always like I'm winning, and then people are like, "We're playing together." I'm like, "Yeah, but
I am
I'm doing a
killing
better
it.
job." Yeah, I'm doing a better job as this team.
Good thing
Look
you
at
have
how
me
much
then.
better I'm working together. Yeah.
What about you,
I
Meg?
need that.
I don't know for this one. I was trying to rack my brain for something that I would compare to Ticket to Ride, but less random. I was trying to go through like what's in my collection and everything, and I'm like, no, that's random. No, that has a lot of random. I don't know. Like, it's kind of stumping me that a game that I can think that's very typical, I guess, and more just about the strategy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Because I do have Ticket to Ride and I love it. I lose
Yes.
it every time, but I
Finally.
love it.
Just never play with Matt Jarvis, and you'll continue to love it.
I lose all the time. My husband gets me at it, so. But I'm trying to think, because there was a game I was comparing to Ticket to Ride with matching colors, and this was like a month ago, and I can't remember what it was. I am stumped.
I'd maybe say something. I'd maybe say something a bit like photosynthesis, if you understand where I'm getting.
I also don't
Yeah,
like
that's very mean.
photosynthesis, so that makes
Yeah.
sense.
See, I like photosynthesis.
I only played it once.
Because it does have a lot less random elements, in the fact that I'm struggling to think of any random elements that are in that game. I don't think there are, in the sense that you decide where you start, you decide what you do in your turn, you get a certain set of amount of points depending on like where the sun is. So this is like a game where you grow trees from seeds. But in order to grow those trees, they need to collect light points, which come from where, depending on where the sun is shining. But you know exactly where the sun is going to shine, like before it does, because it goes around in a very specific loop. But I guess you're kind of route building and a little bit in this route building. And a little bit in the sense that, thank you, you are throwing seeds from your tree to like another spot on the board, and then that will open up another spot for you to throw a seed from once that tree is grown. So maybe try photosynthesis. I like it. I think Matt, you.
Yeah, it's a
think
good
it was-
game. It's not something that I love to bits.
I think
but
it was
think it's good.
overhyped. I think that was the problem. I think people were like, "Oh, this is the next best thing," like, and it's like it's not big, massive revolution. Like, there's nothing there that you wouldn't have maybe seen in a similar game. But I do like it. Like, as a very dry. The art is lovely, but it has kind of a dry nature about it.
Yeah, I think it gets a long way on the 3D trees.
Yeah, I think the 3D trees do a lot. It's pretty, but like, yeah,
Pretty
it's
boring.
Meg, have you played Ticket to Ride Europe at all?
No, I've played London. I have London, so a
okay,
small
yeah.
guy, but that's it.
Yeah. Because actually, Ticket to Ride Europe, I was just thinking about it, that it introduces stations, which kind of takes a little bit of the randomness out. So there are Ticket to Ride. It's still you're drawing cards and so on. London is also a great game, but
Very quick.
is very similar to Ticket to Ride in that you're drawing cards and just putting them down. But
I own Ticket to Ride London.
It's adorable. Yeah, they're really nice. Those little Ticket to Ride. New York is great as well.
Yeah, the agony is over quicker.
Yeah.
They really do whiz by. Like you can knock out a game in like 5-10 minutes. It's kind of amazing.
Then I guess it's not so bad because you're salty for less time.
Yeah, that's the main trick.
It's so bad. Ticket to Ride London, when we play it, I lose every time. So it's like, I'll lose and then be like, okay, let's set it up again. And then I'll lose again and be like, okay, let's go. And then I just have to eventually be
best
like,
of 3,
best
of 5.
Yeah, your partner's like, oh, how do you come and do something? No!
He's sitting there like, I guess if you want it again. Sure.
All right, I think that is all we've got time for on this week's Dicebreaker podcast. Before we leave you quickly, Lolies, what's up on youtube.com/Dicebreaker?
Oh God. Okay. See, usually I know, but as I've mentioned, I've been out.
Oh, of course, you've been away.
I'm gonna have a quick look at the.
Do you want me to jump in? Because I can.
No, the document is opening as we speak, and now I see it. Tomorrow, there seems to be a You've Never Played Tash Kalar. I'm assuming that's with the 3 of you, as in Wheels.
It's with me and Wheels.
It's just the 2 of you.
I had never played Tash Kalar.
Well, there you go. That'll be up on Saturday, so tomorrow. And on Sunday, Wheels writes a song. Is this happening? Do you know, Matt? Should I be reading this out?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not going to read this out.
As soon as you say it on the podcast, it will be cursed by tech issues, or it's always the way. The podcast is real.
I'm not going to say it, but there might potentially be a song and a Wheels video on Sunday. Just keep your eyes peeled. You should just be following us on YouTube, and then you'll be notified of videos anyway. And then next week we're gonna do on Wednesday we're gonna do a let's play of actually I don't know if that's happening on Wednesday. I'm gonna stop talking now because I think things may or may not move around this schedule that we've made. So things are happening, and you should watch. Watch out for them.
And you can also find the usual news and features and whatnot on Dicebreaker.com. You can get some Dicebreaker merchandise at dicebreaker.myshopify.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Meg. Thank you for being here. Where can people find you? Where can they find what you do?
Absolutely. This was really fun. So I'm Professor Meg everywhere. I'm biggest on Instagram, so if you guys want to check me out, that's where I am the most often. I tweet occasionally, very sassy stuff. I used to Twitch stream, I might again, but pretty much everywhere I'm Professor Meg. And I'll just be talking about random board game stuff and what I've been playing.
Meg does this great thing where she sits in a Gloomhaven box quite often, or she just sits in like board game bags.
I've gotten there's a few that I'm gonna try to fit in, and we shall see. I can fit in a Jaws of the Lion box. I didn't take pictures of it, but I did it like in my pajamas one day, and I can.
Wow.
So we'll see.
Oh, God.
It's a great feature that I love when she does it because it's very entertaining.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and of course, thank you, Alex Meehan and Alex Lolies, for joining me.
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for having me once again.
Look, I went for the nice outro for
I
once.
enjoyed it.
No, I had a great
It was
time.
fun.
Thank you for this great time.
So sincere. But yeah, thank you all. Thank you for listening. If you're listening, we'll catch you soon. But until we return with another episode of the Dicebreaker podcast next Friday, stay safe out there, look after yourselves, and have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.